Hi, so I wanted to make this video just to show you an example of like what proper lead scoring looks like in Clay because when I first started using Clay, people were talking about lead scoring, but I never really knew how to apply that to actual use cases. And this use case gives a great example of how to apply it in quite a complex, high level way. So just a bit of background on like the client we were working with. They were basically a SaaS platform that helps bigger enterprises improve their hiring process. And after doing some market research with their team, doing customer interviews, we realized that there was three main signals that their ABM list could be giving that would indicate that they're potentially like feeling the pain that this SaaS platform solves. And those indicators, the main one, like the highest weighted indicator, was whether they had certain hiring initiatives. And those hiring initiatives were, I'll just show you them here. So those hiring initiatives were basically if they had any just general hiring initiatives that have been posted in um, PR posts or blog posts or listed anywhere on their website, if they had DEI initiatives listed on like their careers page, if they had skills frameworks mentioned anywhere on their website, and if they were clearly mentioning like interviewer training, those were like the main highest weight triggers that if they had all of those things on their site, then they're probably feeling the pain that we could solve because they're showing that they're trying to improve their interviewing process. But then there were two other triggers that were like less weighted, and those were if they were currently hiring or building a certain team of specific job titles, which I'll show you here. And those job titles were people like chief people officer, VP of people, head of talent, and especially these like talent operation job titles. So if they're building teams around that, then we know that they're really trying to fix their hiring process. And the final indicator that we needed to look at was their Glassdoor reviews. So these are obviously bigger enterprises, so they get a high volume of Glassdoor reviews. So this was actually a good use case for this because sometimes there's not enough volume to really make the most of it. But all of these companies had over 1,000 employees, so we could actually use Glassdoor properly. And on Glassdoor, there's a section where you can click interviews. And in interviews, people are giving their reviews of how the interview process was. And the key thing we could see there was on the interview review, you can see whether it was a positive experience, a neutral experience, or a negative experience. And that was perfect for us. So what we did was we didn't really know specifically like who our ICP was. We just knew they were big companies in certain sectors like financial services, accounting, um, just a few different like broad industries, and we knew that they would have a lot of employees, so like over 750 employees. And this is a UK company, so we just started with UK companies to begin with. And the first thing we built was the actual AI agent to find those hiring initiatives. So this was probably the easiest part. It was just a mix of training ChatGPT on all of the context about this client and what we've discovered and what we're trying to achieve, and then building a super detailed prompt for an AI agent to basically go out and actually scrape this information. Keep in mind we're using GPT-5 because when I tried 4.0 Mini, it wasn't really powerful enough to actually find these key bits of information. So I used a more powerful model. And as you can see, this prompt is very long. Um, and then we've even given it loads of structure on how to actually output that so that it gives us something that we can actually use. And based on that, we are able to actually get like an overall hiring initiative score out of 30, because there's a lot of like logic in that prompt on like how to score people. So like if you find one out of the four criteria we're looking for, they'd get a certain score. If they found more criteria, they'd get a certain score. And this was the one that we were waiting on like the most. So like if this is a high score, then it's probably a good account to go after. But the next thing we were going after was these specific job titles. So we were basically using Clay's built-in find job active job postings, so like people advertising for these jobs, and we were looking for like fairly recent, so like in the last 3 months, if they're advertising for any of these. then we want to know about it. And obviously, we wanted to get the actual job counts, the actual value, the amount of those that are coming through. We were then um, we then wanted to normalize that, because we didn't want to base it on if they had 15 job openings for those jobs, then they're better than the other company, because you need to base it on how big the actual company is. So this company is way bigger. So the fact it's got 15, it'd be unfair to give it a higher score than this company that only has 8,000 people in it. So we found the total employee count, and then we basically normalized that using a formula that would basically base it on like how many jobs are they advertising for compared to how big the actual organization is, and then normalize it and give them a score from that. And then so we had this normalized score here. So now we've got a score for the hiring initiative, we've got a score for the job specific, like specific if they're interviewing for these specific jobs. So we've got 2, and now we just needed the final bit, which was the really cool bit and probably the hardest part of this, which is scraping the Glassdoor reviews automatically. So what we did is use an AI agent and just gave it the domain of the website and said, look, here's the company name, here's the domain, go and find the Glassdoor page and give us the link. So that was pretty easy. And then we just sent the link and the domain off to make.com using a HTTP API. And we just sent JSON like that. So we sent the Glassdoor link and we sent the domain. And basically that would arrive into our make.com automation here via webhook, and we'd get all of the information, so the domain and the Glassdoor, the Glassdoor link. Then we were using this run actor Apify extension. So we basically used this actor in Apify, which is a Glassdoor review scraper, and you can scrape specifically for interviews. And we plugged in the link into that and then ran that actor. Then you needed a separate module to basically pull that data set, because this runs for like, it takes 20 seconds to actually scrape. And then it waits here. And then we basically use the ID from here to pull the actual data set into this module. We then aggregated that. So we just got rid of all the other data in the JSON that we didn't need, and we just kept whether it was a positive, negative, or neutral review, and just created an array of that. And then these set variable functions was literally just the case of us going through and creating and just doing the maths on how many reviews they were. So we were calculating, we basically scraped the most recent 100 interview reviews, and then we were comparing the percentage of negative reviews compared to like the total amount of reviews, and then normalizing it. So obviously if they had a much higher, if 50 of their last 100 were negative reviews, then they'd get a much higher score, because clearly there's a problem with their interview process, and our platform could help them with that. So once it goes through that and calculates all of the end results, it then sends that data back to Clay, which is really cool, into a separate table, which is basically a streaming table. So it's a webhook, and it will just wait, and whenever it receives a HTTP API request, it will just like bring the data in. So you can see the data we got from here. So we got like the percentage of reviews from that 100 that were actually negative. We've got the total number of reviews that were negative. We've got the total number of reviews that actually scraped. So in this case, it only did 34. And then we got the actual score. So it basically normalized it. It doesn't matter if it didn't scrape 100, even if it scraped 34, it would still normalize the scoring so that it's fair. And then we've got this company identifier, which is the domain, which is the same domain that's in the other table. And so once this comes through, we could then use a function that not many people use in Clay, and I don't use that much either, but it was basically look up single row in other table. And in this function, we were basically able to look into the other table and use the company identifier, which was the domain, which would be the same as in this row. And it was able to pull that data in, and we were able to output that data into columns here. So we actually got the Glassdoor interview score out of 10. And then we used the formula at the end to just combine all of the scores together. So we just added up those 3 scores together, and that gave us our total score. And what's really cool about this is we can run this whenever we want, and the scores will change. So I probably wouldn't run it like that frequently. I'd probably run it like once a month. But these scores will change, and then our client can basically filter by the highest score and go after that account aggressively. What's also great about this is in make.com, if we want to change how these scores are calculated, how they're weighted, we've got complete flexibility. We can do that. But this is kind of just like version one. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that because like I don't think there's many videos on YouTube that actually show you the intricate details of how to do lead scoring, because it is different for different clients. But this was just a specific use case, and I hope it was valuable. If you want us to do this for you, or you want us to help you grow your B2B company, you can book a call with the link below. We can have a relaxed chat and just see if it'd be a good fit. But other than that, subscribe to the channel and watch the other videos. I'm uploading almost daily. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.